In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to download Python for Windows and also install it. And then afterwards, we'll show you briefly how to create and run a program using Python. But first, let's scroll down on this page, this section right here, Active Python Releases. And you can see some different versions and when they were released and when the Python Foundation expects to stop supporting those versions of the programming language. So 2.7 obviously existed, at least initially, before any of these, and it's already reached its end of life. You can see it, support for it ended in January of this year, because I'm creating this video on August 11, 2020. If you have a really old computer, you might have to use 2.7, but if possible, I think you'd be better off using the latest version of Python. Most of what I will teach in the videos that will follow this video will work in any of these versions. But there are a few minor things like how to print and some other stuff I'll point out when we get there that you would have to adjust to if you're going to use an older version. But if your computer is very old and or you have a very old version of Windows, that may be what option you have to go with. But I'm going to assume you can use a newer version, right? So this link right here, notice when I place my cursor over it, it will show you what the file is down here. So look down there and you can see clicking on that will get me python-3.8.5.exe. That is the 32-bit version of the software, which means it was created for 32-bit processors, or at least operating systems running on what they assume are 32-bit processors. Only you know what processor your computer has. If you don't know and you're using Windows, go look at something like the configuration of your machine under Windows that shows you how much memory you have and what hard drive you have and what other hardware you have, and somewhere in there it will tell you what your processor is. If you have a 32-bit version, then this is the one you should use. If you have a 64-bit processor, and they've been out for quite a few years now, so that might be what you have, then you probably want to click here like I am. So I'm going to click on Windows, takes me to this page, and you see this is the latest version, Python 3.8.5, and it says cannot be used with Windows XP or earlier. So I assume that means any version of Windows before Windows XP and also including Windows XP. So I purchased this laptop this year and it's using Windows 10. So I'm going to go with this right here, the x86-64 executable installer. Click on that, and when I do so, it's going to save this file. So now I can run this file, and I want to go with this option, install now, and I notice it says includes idle. That's an editor that comes with this, and that's what I want to go with. So let's click on that and let it get started. Now to create Python files or scripts, as some people would say, you need some type of text editor. That is something that can save in plain text. Windows Notepad can save in plain text, but under most circumstances you probably don't want to use Windows Notepad for writing your code because it's really just too dumb to help you. You want something that knows that you're writing Python code and can attempt to help you by doing things like syntax highlighting. All right? There's other options. There's a number of freely available editors you could use. If you do a search for Windows text editors, you could find quite a few choices. There's also some professional level editors you could pay for if you wanted to. If you're a professional programmer, you may already have one of those. But I want to use idle since it comes with this, and we'll do what we need to do. So now that I've installed this, I'm going to search for it. There's idle, and I'm going to run this. It's going to bring up this shell. So let's move this over to here because I'm going to do something else on the left here in a moment. Many tutorials will do everything in the shell. This is fine for very simple things, but it has a scalability problem. So let's say if I want to test out something really simple like A is equal to 14, and it shows me there's errors. So I'm going to type this again, A is equal to 14, B is equal to 38, C is equal to A plus B, and now if I print C and hit enter, it shows me that 14 plus 38 is 52. That's fine, but what if I want to go back and edit things, or what if I have 1,000 lines of code, whatever? This isn't really the way to do it. And plus, as we'll see eventually, Python expects certain language constructs to have indented code. And I've always found trying to make sure I have the right level of indentation using the shell here to be very difficult. So this isn't really what I want to do. Instead, I want to use the editor that's built in here. So I'm going to say File, New File, and I have this editor on the left. So now I can do some things. If I want to add a single line comment, which in Python uses a £, use that right there. Say this is a single line comment. If I want a multi-line comment, I can use sets of double quotes, either sets of sets of quotes, of triple quotes, so they can be all double quotes like this, or they could be sets of single quotes like this. And everything between these is a multi-line comment. This is a multi-line comment. This is another multi-line comment. And that's misspelled. But I can easily go back and fix it from here. And now if I want to write some code, and if you really are unfamiliar with Python, then what I'm about to do won't make a lot of sense yet. That's the reason why you're watching these videos. But this is just show you how to edit something. So I can do something like this. A is equal to 5. B is equal to 10. C is equal to A plus B. And then I can say if C is greater than 12, colon. And it's trying to help me out here. This is indented, but there's spaces here, which is my preference for doing the indentation. Print C is bigger than 12, else, and this needs to be back at this level, and then write print C is less than or equal to 12. And close that up. And now I want to save this, so I'm going to hit File, Save As, and choose a file name. And let's put it over at, say, this level. Erase.py, because I'm going to get rid of it afterwards. And now to run it, and come up here and click on Run Module. Now that we're here, we can see I could also press F5 as the hotkey to run it, but I'm just going to click from here, run it. And we see C is bigger than 12. So this is what we call a conditional. So it said if this statement is true, do this. And the else means otherwise, do this. So now if I were to come back and want to check the second part, I can do this and say, let's change this to 3. And to save, I can either go back to File and do Save, or I can just press Control S to save. And let's run it again. Run the module, and C is less than or equal to 12. So now it ran the other part because 8 is less than that. So notice here I have indentation. I can easily fix things if I need to, whereas over here, I could then technically do all the stuff I just did here. It's just a lot more difficult to do. And plus now that I've saved this on my hard drive, this file exists. So I can rerun it later, or I can edit it or do whatever. It won't necessarily exist over here except in the cache, or excuse me, the buffer that this has, which is the cache. And I could try to scroll back through my history or whatever and try to get to it, but this is just easier to do. So this is a decent editor for what you need to do for this video series on programming Python. But if you have access to a more robust programming editor or something, you can go that route too. So that's fine. So if you found this video helpful, we'll continue watching the others on how to actually program in Python.